The universe had one rule: don't wake. The humans, they never discovered why. The massive space station hung in the darkness like a metal moon. Inside its silver walls, hundreds of alien beings sat around a glowing table. Their voices filled the air with clicks, hums, and strange musical sounds, but today all of them were quiet. Elder Vexithura stood at the center of the room. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow colors across the walls. She had lived for 3,000 years and had never seen the council so afraid. The report is confirmed, she said, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. Mining ship Delta 7 has awakened them. A wave of fear rippled through the chamber. The six-armed Kraravan delegate dropped his data pad. The floating gas being from Nebula Prime began to glow bright red. Even the mighty wararchiefs of Gorlan seemed to shrink in their seats. How many? Asked Captain Zolix of the Star Patrol. His blue skin had turned pale gray. The ship carries 50,000, Vexthur replied. All of them are beginning to wake up. The chamber erupted in panic. Delegates jumped from their seats. Some began shouting in their native languages. Others started to leave, rushing toward the exits. Silence. Vexithara's voice boomed like thunder. The crystal spikes on her head glowed white hot. Running will not help us now. Slowly the delegates returned to their seats, but their fear remained thick in the air. Remind us again, said the Aquarian ambassador, her gills fluttering nervously. Why are we so afraid? The old records are unclear. Vexithura's ancient mind reached back through millennia of memory. The records speak of a species so dangerous that every civilization in the galaxy agreed on one rule: never wake the humans, never even go near them while they sleep. But why? Pressed the hive mind representative, speaking through 1,000 tiny voices. What makes them so terrible? That knowledge was lost long ago, Vextura admitted. The witnesses are all dead. The records were damaged in the Great War. All we know is that every species that ever met them active agreed they must stay asleep. Commander Throck of the battle fleet stepped forward. His massive form towered over the others. Perhaps the old fears are just stories. These humans have been sleeping for 3,000 years. How dangerous can they be? Dangerous enough that your own ancestors helped build the sleep protocol, Vexithura reminded him. Every world, every species, every government agreed the humans must not be disturbed. She pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared showing a small ship drifting in space. It looked old and simple compared to modern vessels, but somehow just looking at it made the delegates uncomfortable. Mining ship found them in the void sector, Vexithara continued. Their ship was damaged and drifting. The miners thought it was just another derelict. They tried to salvage it and asked Captain Zulix. Their energy scans woke the ship's computers. The humans are beginning to come out of their long sleep. The chamber fell silent again. Outside the great windows they could see the lights of 1,000 ships gathering. Word was spreading across the galaxy. Ancient fleets were moving. Old alliances were being remembered. What do we do? Whispered the Sylvan delegate, her leaf-like skin rustling with fear. Vexatha looked at each face around the table. Some were humanoid, some were completely alien, but all showed the same emotion: terror. We activate Protocol Omega, she said finally. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Protocol Omega had only been used twice in Galactic history, once during the reality storm when space itself began to tear apart, once during the dark hunger, when something from outside the universe tried to eat their dimension. Are you certain? Asked the Krathan delegate. Protocol Omega will panic the entire galaxy. The entire galaxy should be panicking, Vexthera replied. According to the old laws, this is a code black emergency. Nothing takes priority over keeping the humans asleep. She walked to a special console at the side of the room. It was covered in warning symbols from dozens of different species. Her crystal fingers entered a complex code that had been passed down through generations of council elders. The console came to life with a deep pulsing sound that seemed to reach into everyone's bones across the galaxy. Similar consoles were activating on a million worlds. Ancient warning systems began to broadcast the same message in every known language. Code black emergency. The sleepers have awakened. All ships maintain minimum safe distance. Do not approach. Do not communicate without council approval. May the stars have mercy on us all. As the message spread, something strange began to happen on worlds that had forgotten why they feared humans. Old people suddenly remembered fragments of stories. Children woke from dreams they couldn't explain. In the deepest archives, sealed records began to unlock themselves. The galaxy was remembering something it had tried very hard to forget. Back in the council chamber, reports were coming in from across known space. The human ship was moving, not fast but with purpose. It had changed course from its original path and was heading toward the center of the galaxy. Sir, a young technician called to Captain Zulix. Our long-range sensors are picking up something strange. What is it? The human ship, it's not showing up on half our instruments, and the ones that can see it are giving impossible readings. Impossible how? The technician looked confused. According to our scans, the ship is both moving and stationary. It's also showing signs of being in several different locations at the same time. Vexthera felt a chill run through her crystal form. She had hoped the old stories were exaggerated. But if the humans were already bending reality just by waking up, send the message to all fleets, she ordered. Full retreat to minimum safe distance. No one goes within 10 light years of that ship without direct council authorization. 10 light years. Commander Throck looked shocked. That's an entire star system. The old protocols specify 50 light years. Vexthera corrected him. I'm being generous. As the great fleets of the galaxy began their retreat, Vexatha stood alone at the viewing window. In the distance, she could see the lights of ships fleeing in all directions. They looked like fireflies scattering from a sudden light. But what kind of light could frighten an entire galaxy? She closed her ancient eyes and tried to remember the oldest stories, tales her grandmother had told her when she was just a young crystal formation. Stories about beings who could reach into the heart of reality and change the rules by which the universe operated. Beings who solved problems not by working around them, but by making the problems impossible in the first place. Beings called humans, and now they were waking up. Vexthera opened her eyes and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 50,000 of the most dangerous beings in galactic history were stretching and yawning and wondering where they were. She whispered an ancient prayer to whatever gods might be listening. Please, she said softly. Let them go back to sleep, but deep in her crystal heart she knew it was already too late. The humans were awake, and no one remembered why. That was the most terrifying thing that could possibly happen. Captain Sarah Chin felt like she was swimming up from the bottom of a very deep, very cold ocean. Her body was stiff and her mind was foggy. Slowly, the cryogenic sleep began to wear off. The first thing she noticed was the sound. Instead of the quiet hum of the ship's engines, there were alarms beeping softly. Warning lights blinked, red and yellow across the control panels. Status report, she said, her voice rough from 3,000 years of sleep. Captain, came the voice of her AI assistant. Arya, we have a problem. Several problems, actually. Sarah sat up in her cryopod and looked around the bridge. Through the large windows she could see her crew slowly waking up in their own pods. Dr. James Park was already standing, checking his instruments. Engineer Rodriguez was running system diagnostics. Tell me everything, Arya. We are significantly off course. Our navigation systems show we have drifted into an unknown sector of space. We are approximately 500 light-years from our intended destination. Sarah's heart sank. They had been Earth's last hope. When the wars finally destroyed their home planet, the 50,000 people on this ship carried all that remained of human civilization. Seeds, genetic samples, cultural records, and the dream of starting over on a new world. How long were we asleep? 3,215 years, Captain. 3,000 years. Sarah stood up quickly, then had to grab the wall as dizziness hit her. That's impossible. The cryosystems were only designed for a 500-year journey. The ship sustained damage during our departure from Earth. Arya explained. I was forced to extend the sleep cycle to preserve life support. I have been making repairs and maintaining the ship alone. Dr. Park walked over to Sarah. His dark hair was now streaked with white, a side effect of extended cryosleep. Captain, I'm reading something strange on the long-grain sensors. Strange how ships, lots of them, and they're not human. Sarah moved to the main console and looked at the display. Her eyes widened. Thousands of dots surrounded them at a distance. Ships of all sizes and shapes, but none that looked like anything Earth had ever built. Alien ships, she whispered. It appears so, Captain. Arya confirmed. And they have been broadcasting messages at us for the past 6 hours. Let's hear them. The bridge filled with a mixture of sounds unlike anything Sarah had ever heard. Clicks, musical tones, electronic buzzes, and what sounded like whale songs mixed with computer static. Arya, can you translate any of this? I am working on it, Captain. The linguistic patterns are extremely complex, but I believe I have decoded some basic concepts such as fear, reverence, and repeated warnings to remain calm and do not approach. Sarah looked at the sensor display. Again, the alien ships were maintaining their distance, but more kept arriving. It was like they were gathering to watch something, but staying far enough away to run if needed. Captain called Engineer Rodriguez from our station. You need to see this. I'm getting readings from our own ship that don't make sense. Sarah walked over to the engineering console. The display showed energy patterns she had never seen before. Our power core is operating at levels that should be impossible, Rodriguez explained, and the FTL drive. Captain, according to these readings, our drive System has been upgraded, but by what? By who, Arya, did you modify our systems? Negative, Captain. However, I have noticed unusual changes in the ship's technology over the centuries. The modifications appear to be self-improving. Dr. Park looked up from his biological sensors. Captain, I hate to add to our problems, but we have another issue. I've been monitoring communications from Earth. There haven't been any signals. For over 2,000 years, the bridge fell. Silent, Sarah felt her chest tighten. She had always known this was a possibility. The war had been going badly when they left, but hearing it confirmed was different. We're alone, she said quietly. It would appear so. Arya agreed. We are the last humans in the universe. Sarah took a deep breath and looked at her crew, 20 people on the bridge and 49,980 more still waking up throughout the ship. All that remained of humanity. Arya, have you made any progress on translating the alien messages? Yes, Captain, I believe I have identified the meaning of several key phrases. The aliens are referring to us as the sleepers and the ones who must not wake. They appear to be asking us to go back to sleep, go back to sleep. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. We just woke up to find our entire species is extinct, and they want us to go back to sleep. That is correct, Captain. Dr. Park frowned at his instruments. Captain, I'm detecting more ships arriving, and these readings are strange. Some of the alien vessels appear to be thousands of years old, but others seem to be using technology far beyond anything we can understand. Sarah walked to the communication console. Arya, open a channel. Frequencies channel open, Captain. Sarah took a deep breath. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Aspiration. We are humans from the planet Earth. We mean no harm to anyone. We are simply looking for a new home for our people. She waited for a response. After a few minutes, the alien chatter increased. Arya worked to translate. Captain, they are excited and frightened. Many of them are asking for confirmation that we are actually humans. Others are debating whether to flee or send for reinforcements. Reinforcements against 50,000 sleeping colonists. It appears so. Captain. Sarah looked at the display showing the alien fleet. More ships were arriving every hour. Soon there would be more alien vessels out there than there were humans on our ship. Captain Rodriguez called out, I'm getting some very strange readings from our weapon systems. What kind of readings? According to the computer, we don't have weapon systems, but the energy signatures suggest otherwise. It's like the ship has capabilities it's not telling us about. Sarah was beginning to feel overwhelmed. They had expected to wake up near their new home, ready to start building a colony. Instead, they were surrounded by alien ships in unknown space. Their own technology was acting strangely, and apparently the entire galaxy was afraid of them. Arya, are you able to determine why these aliens fear us? I am still analyzing their communications, Captain, but I have found references to ancient warnings and the old rules. It appears that knowledge of why humans should be feared has been passed down through many generations of alien civilizations. But we're not threatening anyone. We're refugees. Nevertheless, Captain, they appear to view us as extremely dangerous. Dr. Park looked up from his console. Captain, I've been monitoring the alien fleet. Formations, they're not in attack. Positions, they're in containment. Positions containment there. Surrounding us but maintaining. Distance like they're trying to keep us in one place without getting too close. Themselves, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. They're not afraid we'll attack them, they're afraid we'll leave. It would appear so, Captain. She looked out at the stars, trying to process everything that had happened. Humanity was extinct except for them. They were surrounded by aliens who feared them for unknown reasons, and their own ship was displaying capabilities that shouldn't exist. Area, what do you recommend? I suggest caution, Captain. We clearly do not understand the situation we have awakened into. Perhaps it would be wise to learn more before taking any action. Sarah nodded slowly. She had 50,000 lives depending on her decisions. Whatever had made the galaxy afraid of humans, she needed to understand it before she accidentally proved them right. But as she looked at the growing alien fleet, one thing became clear. Going back to sleep was not an option. The last humans in the universe were awake, and the galaxy was going to have to deal with that fact. Dr. Kilhan dove deep into the crystal archives beneath the ocean floor of Aquanis. Her people, the tidal singers, had kept records in living coral for millions of years. Somewhere in these glowing walls was the answer the Galactic Council desperately needed. The emergency message had reached every world. Find out why the humans were feared. Ancient knowledge was locked away in forgotten vaults. Across the galaxy, 3 worlds had the oldest records, and each was racing to uncover the truth. Kilthan's webbed fingers traced the singing coral formations. Each one hummed with stored memories from her ancestors. Most contained songs about daily life, love, and the changing tides, but some held darker melodies. Sing to me of the rage that burned stars, she whispered to the ancient coral. The crystal formation pulsed with deep red light. Then it began to sing in voices from long ago. The melody was broken and filled with terror. They came from the small blue world, the coral sang, the bipeds who walked on dry land. At first they seemed weak, no claws, no natural weapons, no gifts from the deep waters. Calithan listened carefully, recording every note, but when their young were threatened, they became something else. The peacemakers became warbringers. The builders became destroyers. They took the fire of a star and made it into a weapon. The choral song grew more frightened. They did not just destroy one world, they destroyed the system. They turned the star itself into a bomb. 11 worlds died in fire. The rage that burned stars consumed everything. Meanwhile, on the desert planet Zirian, the hive mind called itself 9,000 voices, searched through genetic memories. Unlike other species, the hive mind remembered everything through their shared consciousness, but these memories were buried deep, hidden away like toxic waste. 9,000 voices split their attention across their entire swarm. Some bodies searched ancient data crystals, while others dove into the deepest genetic memories of their race. Show us the makers of the impossible. They commanded their ancestral memories. The memory came flooding back like a nightmare. It was from a time when the hive mind was young, only a few thousand. Body strong, they had encountered humans during a territorial dispute over a mineral-rich asteroid field. The humans had seemed reasonable at first. They offered to share the resources and work together, but then the humans had done something that should have been impossible. When the asteroid proved too difficult to mine with conventional methods. They had simply changed the laws of physics in a small area around it. Gravity flowed backward, the memory whispered, time moved in circles, space folded like paper, the rocks became liquid, the vacuum became solid. They reached into reality itself and rewrote the rules. 9,000 voices shared the terror of their ancestors, beings who could change the fundamental forces of the universe. Were not just dangerous, they were a threat to existence itself. On the ancient library world of CEX, Prime Scholar Vexel searched through sealed vaults that had not been opened for millennia. Her people, the archive keepers, were the galaxy's librarians. They collected and preserved knowledge from every civilization, but some knowledge was too dangerous to preserve safely. It was locked away in quantum-sealed containers, hidden in sections of the library that officially did not exist. Vexel's security clearance had been upgraded by emergency council order. She could now access files that had been forbidden for 3,000 years. The first vault she opened contained technology that made no sense. Devices labeled in human writing. Probability engine, causality inverter, reality stabilizer, and entropy reversal unit. She activated one of the smaller devices, something called a local physics modifier. The device hummed to life, and suddenly the laws of thermodynamics stopped working. In a small area around it, heat flowed from cold to hot. Energy increased instead of decreasing. Vexel quickly shut it off and backed away. The humans had built tools that could break the universe, but the most terrifying discovery was yet to come. In the deepest vault, she found a single human data core. It was still active after thousands of years, its surface crawling with equations that hurt to look at. When she connected it to the archive's translation matrix, it began to speak in a calm human voice. Hello, if you are accessing this recording, then humans have probably done something that scared you. Don't worry, we're not trying to hurt anyone. We just solve problems. The voice paused, as if the speaker was choosing their words carefully. You see, we don't think about problems the same way other species do. When most beings encounter something impossible, they accept it and work around it. When humans encounter something impossible, we make it possible. The recording continued with explanations that made Vexel's head spin. Humans didn't just build tools to manipulate their environment, they built tools to manipulate the rules that governed reality. If faster than light travel is impossible, we change the nature of space until it becomes possible. If energy cannot be created from nothing, we modify the conservation laws. If death is inevitable, we rewrite biology until it isn't. Vexel realized she was shaking. These weren't just advanced beings, they were cosmic engineers who treated the laws of physics like suggestions. Back on Aquinas, Keithon had found more choral songs. They spoke of humans who had fought against creatures from outside normal space, things that existed in the gaps between dimensions. The devourers came, sang the choral. They ate light itself. They consumed the force that holds atoms together. Reality began to unravel wherever they touched. The song described how every species in the galaxy had tried to fight the devourers and failed. Their weapons passed through the creatures harmlessly. Their shields offered no protection against beings that could eat the electromagnetic force. Then the humans arrived. They looked at the problem and said this is impossible, therefore we will make it possible. They built weapons that fired concepts instead of energy. They created armor made from crystallized logic. The coral's voice grew odd. They fought the devourers not in normal space, but in the realm of pure mathematics. They battled ideas with ideas, concepts with concepts, and they won, but victory had come at a terrible cost. The war damaged reality itself. Planets forgot how to exist. Stars began burning backward through time. The humans had to rebuild the fundamental forces of the universe from scratch. On Zirion, 9,000 voices had uncovered genetic memories of the aftermath. The humans had succeeded in defeating the devourers, but the process had left them changed. They could no longer control their abilities. The memories revealed every time they solved a problem, they risked breaking something else. Their very presence began to destabilize local reality. The hive mind remembered the day the humans had made their choice rather than risk destroying the universe they had saved. They would go to sleep. They built great ships to carry them into the void, far from any inhabited worlds. We will sleep until the universe needs us again, they had said. But if you wake us before, then we cannot promise we won't accidentally remake everything while solving whatever problem woke us up. On Codex Prime, Vexel had found the final piece of the puzzle, a treaty signed by every species in the galaxy, including the humans themselves. The Eternal Sleep Accord, she read aloud. Recognition of the reality-altering capabilities of the human species and the danger posed by their unconscious manipulation of fundamental forces. It is hereby agreed that human colonies will remain in suspended animation until such time as their awakening is absolutely necessary for galactic survival. The treaty was signed by representatives of every major civilization. Even the humans had agreed to it, but now they were awake. And, according to the ancient records, that could only mean one thing. Something so terrible was coming that the galaxy would need reality-bending problem solvers to survive it. Dr. Kilithin, 9,000 voices, and Scholar Vexel reached the same terrifying conclusion. At the same time, they immediately sent emergency transmissions to the Galactic Council. The message was simple. The humans weren't put to sleep because they were dangerous to us. They were put to sleep because they were dangerous to reality itself. If they're awake, something worse than the devourers must be coming. In the space around the human ship, more alien vessels continued to arrive, but now they weren't just watching the humans. They were scanning the void beyond, looking for whatever threat was terrible enough to wake the universe's most dangerous problem solvers. Because if the humans were awake, then something that required impossible solutions was coming, and nobody wanted to be around when the humans started solving it. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the impossible readings on her screen. For 3 days she had been trying to understand why their ship's FTL drive was showing energy patterns that defied every law of physics. She knew Arya. She called to the ship's AI, run the diagnostic again. These numbers can't be right. Diagnostic complete. Dr. Vasquez, the readings are accurate. Our FTL drive is operating on principles that current galactic science considers impossible. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. She was the ship's theoretical physicist responsible for understanding how their technology Worked, but this was beyond anything she had ever studied. Arya pulled up the original design specifications for our FTL system. The holographic display showed familiar equations and engineering diagrams. It was standard Alcubierre drive technology, bend space-time to create a bubble that could travel faster than light. Now show me what the drive is actually doing. The new diagram made Alina's head hurt. Instead of bending spacetime, the drive seemed to be convincing spacetime to move out of the way. Instead of creating energy, it was borrowing energy from possible futures. Instead of following the laws of physics, it was negotiating with them. This is impossible, Alina muttered. Dr. Vasquez, Arya said gently, I have observed many impossible things during our long journey. Perhaps humans define impossible differently than other species. Elena was about to respond when Captain Chen's voice came over the ship's communication system. All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have a situation. Elena hurried to the bridge and found the entire command crew gathered around the main display outside the viewports. The alien fleet had grown larger. Thousands of ships now surrounded them at a careful distance. What's the situation, Captain? Elena asked. The aliens are trying to force us into what they call a protective quarantine. Captain Chen replied, her voice tight with anger. They want to escort us to an isolated system where we'll be contained. Dr. Park looked up from his xenobiology station. Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. They're not treating us like a threat to them. They're treating us like a threat to everything. What do you mean? According to their messages, they believe our mere presence is causing reality fluctuations. They're worried we might accidentally break something important just by existing. Engineer Rodriguez spoke up from her station. Captain, that might not be completely wrong. I've been monitoring our ship's energy output, and we're affecting local spacetime in ways that should be impossible. Captain Chen looked frustrated. We're refugees, not weapons. We just want to find a new home, Captain Alina said, studying the alien fleet formation. I think I might understand what's happening. Our FTL drive, it doesn't work the way it should, and I think our other systems have been modified during our long sleep. Modified how? They've evolved. Somehow our technology has been improving itself for 3,000 years. It's like our ship has been learning how to manipulate reality more efficiently. Before Captain Chen could respond, a new set of alarms began sounding. The alien fleet was moving closer, forming what looked like a containment formation. Captain, Dr. Park called out, I'm receiving a transmission. They're giving us an ultimatum. We have 1 hour to submit to quarantine or they'll use force to contain us. Captain Chen's expression hardened. Force against refugees looking for a home, Captain Alina said urgently. I don't think we should let them capture us. Not until we understand what our ship is capable of. What do you mean? Elena moved to the engineering console and began pulling up data. I've been studying our systems, Captain. I don't think we're just passengers on the ship anymore. I think we're part of it. The ship has been adapting to us, learning from us, becoming something new. Are you saying the ship is alive? I'm saying it's become something between technology and biology, something that responds to human thought patterns and problem-solving methods. Captain Chen looked at the approaching alien fleet. How long until they reach us? 30 minutes, Captain Rodriguez reported. Area Captain Chen said, "Are our defensive systems operational, Captain?" "We do not have defensive systems in the traditional sense. However, the ship has developed certain capabilities, such as." Alina stepped forward. "Captain, I think I know what Arya means. Our ship doesn't fight problems, it solves them. And if the problem is we are surrounded by hostile forces, then the ship will find a way to make that problem not exist." Captain Chen looked around at her crew. These were the last humans in the universe. If they were captured and contained, humanity would effectively be extinct. "Alina, if you have an idea now, would be a good time to share it. I think we should let the ship show us what it can do. But Captain, I need to warn you, based on these readings, what happens might not look like anything anyone expects." Captain Chen nodded. "Slowly do it." Alina moved to the FTL control console, but instead of entering coordinates or commands, she simply said, "Ship, we need to not be surrounded by hostile forces anymore." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire vessel began to hum with a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The first sign that something strange was happening came from the alien fleet. Their sensors began reporting impossible readings. Human ship appeared to be in multiple locations at once. Then it seemed to phase through normal space entirely. Inside the ship, the crew watched in amazement as the viewport showed impossible views. They could see the alien fleet from above, below, and from inside some of the ships simultaneously. Space appeared to be folded like origami around them. "Alina," Captain Chen said quietly, "what exactly is happening?" "We're not moving through space, Captain. We're convincing space to rearrange itself around us. The ship is solving the problem of being surrounded by making surrounded not apply to us anymore." On the main display, they could see the alien fleet's panicked response. Ships were colliding with each other as their sensors reported the human vessel in 17 different locations. Some ships were firing weapons at empty space where their instruments said the human should be. Then suddenly the human ship materialized in the center of the alien formation, but it wasn't just in one place. It was somehow occupying the same space as several alien vessels without touching them. Impossible. Breath Dr. Park were existing in the same space as other ships without any physical interaction. The ship has temporarily convinced local physics that solid matter is optional. Alina explained, her voice filled with awe and terror. "We're not breaking the laws of physics, we're temporarily rewriting them." The alien fleet scattered in panic. Ships fled in all directions, their crews broadcasting emergency signals about reality failures and dimensional anomalies. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. As the human ship stabilized back into normal space, other human artifacts throughout the galaxy began to activate. Ancient human probes that had been drifting silently for millennia suddenly came online. Abandoned human outposts that had been cold and dead for 3,000 years began transmitting signals. Even human ruins on distant worlds started showing energy signatures. "Arya," Captain Chen said, "what's happening to the other human artifacts?" "It appears that our awakening has triggered a response in all human technology throughout the galaxy, Captain. They are remembering their purpose." Dr. Park looked at his Sensor readings in disbelief. Captain, I'm detecting human technology. Activating on over 300 worlds, some of. It is technology that shouldn't even exist yet. Alina stared at her. Instruments, Captain, I think our ancestors didn't just build ships and colonies, they built a network, a galaxy spanning system designed to activate. When humans woke up, a network for what? Purpose. Problem solving, Captain. I think every piece of human technology in the galaxy is designed to work together to solve problems, big problems, universe-threatening problems, Captain. Chen looked out at the fleeing alien ships. And what problem do you think we just told the galaxy we're awake to solve? Before anyone could answer, long-range sensors detected something that made everyone fall silent. At the edge of the galaxy, space itself was beginning to tear. Something was pushing through from outside normal reality. Something that existed in the spaces between dimensions. Something that the universe had been preparing for by keeping its problem solvers asleep until they were needed. Captain, Alina said quietly, I don't think we woke up by accident. I think something woke us up. What kind of something? Alina looked at the impossible readings on her screen. The kind of something that requires impossible solutions. The human ship hung in space, surrounded by the wreckage of its own impossibility. Around them, the galaxy watched in terror and wonder as humanity's true purpose became clear. They weren't just refugees looking for a home. They were the universe's emergency response team. And they had just been activated in the deepest part of space, where the galaxy ended and the void began. Something ancient stirred. It had been waiting for eons, watching from the spaces between realities. Now finally it sensed what it had been looking for. The humans were awake, back on the council station. Elder Vexa received reports that made her crystal form dim with fear. The energy being called the First Witness had requested an emergency meeting. In her 3,000 years of life, Vexathara had never seen the ancient creature leave its home in the galactic core, but now it was here, floating in the council chamber like a living star. Its voice was the sound of solar wind across cosmic dust. The humans are not awake by chance, the First Witness said, its words rippling through spacem itself. Something has called to them, something that requires their unique abilities. What kind of something? Vexthor asked. Though she dreaded the answer, show them, the First Witness commanded. The chamber's sensors, the main display lit up with images from the galactic edge. Space itself was twisted and torn like fabric that had been clawed by invisible hands. Through the tears, something dark and hungry pressed against reality. Unravelers, the First Witness said. Simply, they have found us again. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Unravelers were creatures from the time before time, entities that existed in the gaps between possibilities. They fed on existence itself, unmaking reality wherever they touched, but they were defeated, protested Captain Zulix. The ancient records say they were destroyed millions of years ago, not destroyed. The First Witness corrected, banished, locked away in the spaces between dimensions. But locks can be broken, especially when the universe grows old and the barriers between realities grow thin. Bixathara understood now. The humans weren't put to sleep because they were dangerous to us. They were put to sleep because they were the only ones who could fight these things precisely. The humans do not merely use technology. They convince reality to cooperate with them against beings that exist outside normal physics. Conventional weapons are useless. You need soldiers who can rewrite the rules of existence. On the human ship Aspiration, Captain Chen was beginning to understand the same truth. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human technology was activating everywhere, creating a network of impossible devices that spanned thousands of star systems. Area, she said, show me the full extent of the network. The bridge filled with a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Bright points of light marked every piece of human technology that had awakened. They formed a pattern that was both beautiful and terrifying, a web of connections that reached into every corner of known space. Captain Dr. Vasquez called from her station. I'm receiving data streams from all the activated human sites. It's like they're trying to share information with us. What kind of information? Technical specifications, tactical data, and memories. Captain, I think our ancestors left us instructions for fighting something specific. Dr. Park looked up from his console. Captain, I'm detecting massive space-time distortions at the galactic edge. Something is trying to break through into our reality. Captain Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Arya, are you receiving the data from the other human sites? Yes, Captain, and I am beginning to understand our true purpose. The humans who built these systems were not colonists, they were guardians. We are the descendants of beings who were tasked with protecting reality itself. Engineer Rodriguez spoke up. Captain, the ship systems are evolving again. New capabilities are coming online. Weapons that fire concepts instead of energy. Shields made from crystallized mathematics. Engines that run on pure possibility. Captain Chen looked at her crew, the last humans in the universe, inheritors of a responsibility they had never known. They carried. Show me what we're supposed to fight, she said. The main display shifted to show the tears in space at the galaxy's edge. Through the gaps, shadowy forms pressed against the barriers of reality. They were not creatures in any normal sense. They were living contradictions, beings made of the absence of existence. The unravelers, Arya said, they consume the fundamental forces that hold the universe together. Where they pass, gravity ceases to function. Electromagnetic forces fail, and the strong and weak nuclear forces simply stop. Dr. Vasquez studied the readings. Captain, according to this data, conventional weapons would be useless. Against them, energy beams would be absorbed and turned into more unravelers. Physical projectiles would cease to exist upon contact. Then how do we fight them? By fighting the ideas that make them possible, Elena replied, her voice filled with awe. The network isn't just sharing technology with us, it's sharing ways of thinking that allow humans to manipulate reality at the conceptual level. Captain Chen made her decision. Arya, connect us to the full network. Whatever our ancestors built us for, it's time to do it. Connecting now, Captain. The ship shuddered as information flooded into its systems. The crew could feel the change as their vessel became something more than just a starship. It became a node in a galaxy-spanning weapon designed to fight impossibility itself. Captain Rodriguez reported, we're receiving coordinates positions throughout the galaxy where human sites need to be activated. How many sites? 50,000, Captain. Exactly the same number As our crew, Captain Chen understood. Each human on the ship wasn't just a colonist, they were the key to activating one piece of the greatest weapon ever built. All hands, she announced over the ship's communication system. This is the captain. We have discovered our true purpose. We are not refugees. We are the guardians of reality itself. Each of you will pilot one of the network nodes to defend our universe against forces that would unmake existence. As the crew prepared for their mission, the tears in space grew larger. The unravelers pressed harder against the barriers, sensing that their ancient enemies were awakening. But they had made one crucial error. They had assumed that humans were just another species that used tools to solve problems. They had not understood that humans were the species that made impossible tools to solve impossible problems. Across the galaxy, 50,000 points of light began to pulse in unison. Each one was a human consciousness linked to technology that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They were weapons that fired pure concept shields made of logical impossibilities and engines powered by the rejection of entropy itself. First witness watched from the council station as humanity's true nature was revealed. This is why the universe has laws, it said to the assembled delegates, not to limit what is possible, but to give humans something to work with when they need to make the impossible become real. Captain Chen felt her consciousness expand as she merged with the network. She could perceive the unravelers not as physical beings, but as errors in the equation of existence, and she knew exactly how to solve that equation. All nodes, she transmitted across the network, prepare to rewrite local reality. We're going to convince the universe that unravelers are mathematically impossible. But Captain, came Dr. Vasquez's voice, if we rewrite reality to exclude them, what happens to us? Captain Chen paused, considering the question. If they succeeded in making unravelers impossible, they would also make themselves impossible. The very abilities that allowed them to fight these creatures would be erased from existence. But looking at the tears in space and the darkness pressing through, she knew there was no choice. We do what humans have always done, she said. Finally, we solve the problem, no matter the cost. The network activated. Across the galaxy, 50,000 human minds reached into the heart of reality and began to edit the fundamental equations that governed existence. They worked with concepts that had no names, manipulating forces that existed only the spaces between thoughts. The unravelers screamed as they felt the universe turn against them. Reality itself was being rewritten to exclude their existence. The tears in space began to seal, pushing the creatures back into the void between dimensions. But as the last unraveler was banished, the human network began to fade. The very modifications they had made to reality were erasing the possibility of their own existence. Captain Chen felt her consciousness dissolving as the network shut down. Around her, the ship began to fade as its impossible technologies became incompatible with the newly stable universe. Did we win? Dr. Park asked, his voice growing distant. We solved the problem, Captain Chen replied, watching as her crew became transparent. That's what humans do. As the last human consciousness flickered out, the galaxy was left with only a memory of beings who had sacrificed themselves to preserve existence itself. The first witness spoke a final eulogy for the species that had saved everything. They were not conquerors or builders, they were guardians who stood watch in the darkness, and when the universe needed them most, they gave everything to keep reality itself from being unmade. The galaxy was safe, the unravelers were gone, and the universe had learned why. It had one unbreakable rule: don't wake the humans unless you're prepared for them to save everyone by erasing themselves from existence. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.